Stand by. We're going live. We're going live. 10, 9, going live. 8, 7, 6, 5, going live. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to 10 Seconds to Air. I'm Alita Guillen. Today's conversation is quite timely. We are talking about what Black women go through when it comes to their hair. This was actually recorded before Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars over a joke Rock made about Jada Pinkett Smith's hair. My guest today is Dorothy Tucker. She is an award-winning investigative reporter for CBS in Chicago, and she is the president of the National Association of Black Journalists. Last year, Dorothy received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Chicago Journalists Association. Dorothy and I worked together as reporters in Chicago. Our desks were so close that not only would we hear each other ferociously banging on a keyboard to get out a story, but we also witnessed how we juggled work and raising kids. We haven't shared that space in the newsroom in a long time. Now we share dinners and talk about work, family, and whatever is on our mind. I love talking to Dorothy because, as you are about to hear, she's honest, thoughtful, and incredibly patient. The question, what goes through her mind 10 seconds before air, is not right at the beginning of this conversation. But stick around because you will be stunned at what this veteran television reporter reveals about her mindset before she delivers the news. And now, here's my conversation with Dorothy Tucker. I know you and I have talked about a lot of different things that we want to talk about, and we will get to those probably not today because you and I have so much to talk about. But what I did want to start with was a recent story that you did focused on Black hair.
For Black women, we struggle to try and figure out how to care for our hair so that it conforms to what is expected in the workplace. Now in our culture, it's a thing that Black girls, when they're very young, at a very young age, they begin to get straightened. They get it permed. They don't really wear it natural. At the age of 5 and 6, they're going to the beauty salon to get a perm. Mm-hmm. By the time they get to grade school, they have been straightening their hair, perming their hair for years with relaxers. So what are relaxers? Relaxers is actually a chemical. It's a treatment that comes in a jar, and you wash the hair, and then you put this goop-looking stuff, white stuff, on the roots, and it chemically treats the hair and makes it go straight. And it stays straight for a couple of months. And then you have to go back to get another perm. It's costly. It's time-consuming, but it means that naturally kind of kinky, tight curl is now straight. And that is just something that, Black women, Black girls have been doing for eons. And a couple of things happen. So remember when everybody had the afros?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's what I was just about to ask you that.
When you're a little Black girl, your idea of beauty is what you see on television. And if you only see white women with long hair and you see cartoons with cartoon characters with long hair, then that's what you're taught is pretty. That's what you're taught is beautiful. I can remember being 8, 9 years old, and all I wanted was to have curls like Shirley Temple. And, I will never forget the time my mom, she washed my hair, and she didn't give me a relaxer because she said my hair was too soft for a relaxer. So she wouldn't do it. And I'm like, but I want it straight. It wasn't straight, but, and she was like, no, I'm not going to give you a relaxer, but I want Shirley Temple curls, and I can remember sitting in the kitchen and just begging her to give me these Shirley Temple curls. So she washes my hair and, twisted. I look like I have an afro at the end of it. She told me it was Shirley Temple curls, so I was ecstatic. And, there is this picture of me that I wished, well, I know where it is, with me sporting my Shirley Temple curls. Looked like an afro because it wasn't straight. So all your life, you grow up thinking that I just want to be that image of pretty, and it messes. I think it messes with your mind, and so I, like so many women, you go to college and you get the job and you just continue along the track of wearing the hair straight. That means if you don't get a perm, then you get a hot comb, and not a hot iron, but hot comb. It literally is a comb that is made out of brass that you put on the stove, and you turn the eye on, and it's made out of iron. I'm sorry, it's not made out of brass. It's made out of iron. You turn the eye on, and you heat up this iron until it's like, I don't know what the temperature could be, but it's hot as hell. And you have to blow it, let it cool down, but it's a comb. And then you straighten your hair with the comb.
How often would you do this? Would you do this every day? If you didn't have the perm to straighten your hair, you would do this as like a daily routine?
At least every week, depending on, the kind of hair that you had. And if you didn't do the entire head, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, you had to at least do around the edges because you would sweat. When you hear a lot of Black women in particular say that they don't swim, they can't swim, it's because they're afraid of getting their hair wet.
Oh.
There's no way in the world you're going to go to the beauty shop and you're going to spend $50, $60 on this hairstyle and get it all straight, with the comb and stuff. And as time went on, there was the curling iron and there was the hot comb and the hot irons and, flat irons or whatever they were. You're not going to spend that money, spend that kind of time, and then go get in a pool, because as soon as the water hit, it was over. Yeah.
So I've noticed, and you mentioned this, that you have stopped doing that.
Yes. About 7 or 8 years ago, the makeup artist, she said, hey, you should use a flat iron on your hair because it gets hotter, and it'd be better. So I started doing that.
But now, was she a Black makeup artist? Was she a white makeup artist?
Black.
She was Black.
Black.
Okay.
So I trust. You should do this, And I started using it, and probably after several months, a year, my hair was just straight all the time. Even if I would wash it, there were the edges of my hair that were just bone straight. And I'm looking at it and going, I lost my natural curl. I said, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. And that was about the time that the movement came in. That was about the time that I began to see Black women on television wearing their hair in afros, or wearing twists, wearing braids, and, just letting it go natural. And, I thought, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to go natural. So I cut it a bit, because when you damage the hair, you basically got to cut out the part that you've damaged.
Yeah.
So I cut it short, and I went to my then boss, Jeff Kiernan, and said to him, I need to wear my hair natural and wear it curly.
Wow! And what did he say to that?
Oh, he didn't like it. Oh my God! You would have thought I told him I was just about to paint my hair pink or something. He said, well, I want you to look like your picture. And remember, my publicity picture was with my hair straight. And I'm explaining it to him, and he just kept repeating himself. No, I want you to look like your picture. I want you to look like your picture.
And what was going through your mind at the time? Because here you are, a Black woman, having had straightened your hair most of your life, and now I would imagine that emotionally you're also going through something to even say you want to wear your hair natural, because that's not even who you have been your whole life.
You know, I just, for me, it was, I realized my hair was being damaged. And I just said, you got to trust me on this. You know, at some point, you know, I may go back to it being straight, but I need to stop damaging my hair. I can't do this anymore. You know, and he finally said, okay, fine. Okay, fine. But after 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, I didn't want to go back.
And was it hard for you to get used to who you were with this new hair?
Not at all. It was easier, you know, it was less time consuming. And I felt like, you know, I was looking in the mirror at my natural curls, something I hadn't done for decades.
So did you feel like you were more of the person that you are inside, and the other look was more of the person that you were trying to portray to appease other people, or maybe even a white audience?
You know, I think for me, I felt um, I, I felt like I had finally owned up and was no longer afraid to be who I was no longer afraid to present the look that I wake up in the morning with, you know. And for so long, I had become something else because it was acceptable, because I thought this was just because everybody else did and because I was supposed to do it. I was supposed to conform to this, and it was expected. So I felt freed. I know I've talked to a lot of women who probably see it as, and I know, you know, for them, it was a moment where they felt a sense of pride and embracing their culture, embracing their heritage. Um, I understood that that's what it was, but I think for me personally, it was just feeling confident enough that I can look the way I am and do my job and still be good at my job and present the news, and my hair being curly as opposed to straight was not going to impact that. It didn't make a difference. People were still going to listen to me. You know, I was still going to, uh, you know, do the good job that I felt like I had always done. You know, but I was just doing it from my truth.
Mm-hmm. And do you remember if people took note of it, and did anyone
Oh,
say anything to you?
people definitely took note of it. I heard from a number of Black women in particular who were like, "You go, girl." You know, loving the new do. Uh, it was all very positive. And if anybody thought anything negative, they didn't say anything. People at the office thought that it was really kind of cute, you know, that it looked good. So it was, you know, for me, it was all positive. Again, my experience, I think, different than, fortunately, you know, than some women, some Black women, and those I've interviewed, those that I did in my story. Um, they didn't have the same kind of experience. You know, if you talk to some Black women, uh, what happens is, you know, the stories that I've heard and those that have been shared with me, when they change their hair, their white colleagues would kind of cock their heads and say, "Oh, so what happened to your hair?" You know, it's like, "Oh, what are you doing? And then if they went back to the straight style, you walk into the office and it's, oh my God, you look so nice today. I love your hair.
Right. Okay, let's pause on that for a second, Dorothy, because I want you to elaborate. I think that, and one of the things that you and I go through is that kind of conveying what are white people thinking, what are black people thinking. So let's take a moment right here, right now. What are clearly white people are thinking, oh, kind of, why would you do that? Like, there sounds like what you're saying is they want to say, why'd you do that? It looked so good before. What should white people say?
If they can't compliment, then don't say anything, because, or don't give that woman that look, that raised eyebrow.
People can't see us, but you and I are looking at each other right now over video, and I just wish people could see your face right now, because you're very politically correct in how you're explaining that, but the look on your face is like, don't do that.
Don't do that. God forbid you should ask to touch the head.
Yeah, explain that.
When you ask a black woman, can I touch your hair? It really makes them feel like it's disrespectful, because you're saying you're different. You're so different, and your hair is so different that I want to touch it. It's hard. It's hard for me to explain, but it's kind of like, a dog. It's kind of like petting an animal. Just as, and it feels that way.
That's a great way. I think that is a great way of explaining it.
Yeah, when they want to just pat your head and touch your hair, as if I touch it, then it's acceptable.
Has anyone ever asked you that before?
Oh my God, yes.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Many times, I've been asked, by young white women, especially in areas, not in Chicago so much, because, in Chicago, we see black people all the time and stuff, but I've been out, over the years. Yeah. Can I touch, feel like, I think sometimes, especially with my grade of hair, they're surprised at the texture.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, you have to remember too, black women have all, like we come in different shades, complexions. We come in different grades of hair, and it runs the gamut. My hair is finer. My hair is probably a little straighter in the back, especially. So I think they will sometimes look at me and kind of go, my hair is coarser in the top. And so why is it coarse in the top? And then the back is straight, and so I think there's a curiosity about how that happens. So it's different, and they want to touch it. They want to touch it then. I posted my before and after, and I can't remember. A white woman made a comment that said that my hair was beautiful, and I know she meant it as a compliment. I know, and I took it that way. But I will tell you that there are some black women who feel that if a curly style is straighter, then that black woman is going to be told her hair is beautiful. But if it is a kinkier style with twist, then the white people aren't as inclined. That black person feels like they don't get that, hey, your hair is beautiful. And of course, it all comes down to the straighter. If it looks straighter, then it looks
more acceptable in some way.
It looks kind of like a white person's hair might look.
So you being on TV, I think, get a different reaction from people because you were on TV, and we know that usually people kind of they like you. They may like you or have a predisposition to you because you're on TV. Also, in your case, you had been on the news in Chicago for many years prior to changing your hairstyle. So people already had an affinity for you. But you have done some reporting in the business world, and there's now new legislation that's coming into play with this. This has become a far more serious change. And talk a little bit about what you have seen in the business world in Chicago with women making this movement to change the hair, because there are actually that Crown Act is in several states. I think it's like 7 or 12 something states. It started off in California, where it was to protect women of color, to not be discriminated based on their hair. But you're in Illinois, and it's actually not the law in Illinois.
Legislators are introducing the Crown Act, in different states, in various states, because there were actual lawsuits. There had been Black women who felt that they were discriminated against, that they didn't get a job, that they lost a job, that they didn't get promoted because of their hair. Were held back because of their hair. So it's become...
And how do they know that? Does somebody say to them, sorry, you can't get this job because of your hair? I mean, isn't that kind of hard to prove? Or is it so blatant, so egregious that I don't really understand that? And as a Black woman, people say things all the time, or they are discriminating because of your hair, and that's just not something I understand.
Alita, I think it's like any time somebody is discriminated against. When a woman is discriminated against, the man doesn't just come out and say, I'm not going to give you this job because you're a woman.
Right.
What you find is that you keep going and asking for a promotion. And then, there are 10 men who ask for the same promotion and don't have as much skills, and they get the job. And then you find out that, you asked for a raise and they got paid money without asking for a raise. So it's different things like that. And it's the same thing when it comes to hair and a Black woman. Somebody may, if you read the cases, there were times when, a boss kind of made a snide remark. Somebody in the room made a snide remark about the hair. She was asked, whether she was going to change her hair before she gave some big presentation. So it's little things, and then you don't get the promotion, and all of this stuff just kind of adds up. And so we've seen these lawsuits around the country, and it's something that even without a lawsuit, the women that I've spoken to in Chicago, they were about to apply for a job and had to have a real heart-to-heart with themselves. When I go in for this interview, if I have a white person, I probably have a better chance of getting the job if my hair is straight. Mm. So even if you've been wearing it natural for that day, for that interview, you put on the hair straight and, in hopes that you will get the job. That makes them feel as if they are not being true to themselves. Mm. That makes them feel as if they are, compromising, and they didn't want to do that. So you have incidents like that around the country, around the world, as a matter of fact. But in Illinois, Illinois is probably one of 40 states where you don't have the Crown Act yet, because right now it's in about a dozen or so states. And it's been introduced in probably, I think, another 20 or 30 states. So it's been introduced here. So legislators will get an opportunity again, hopefully, to discuss the Crown Act. And I know the senator who has introduced it is hoping that it will get to the floor and that this will be a discussion and that she will get the votes. But what has happened here in Illinois, unlike some other states, and you're going to have to look it up, but there is a law that is, and it's called the Jet something of the law, and is based on a 5-year-old boy who attended a predominantly Black school. He had braids in his hair. Mom gets a phone call. And, the principal teacher is saying he can't come to school like this. He can't come to school with these braids.
Why? Why were they saying that?
They said it just was not a uniform look.
A boy in braids, he should not be wearing braids. He should have the traditional boy hairstyle. And so she pushed back, and she complained and she said, no, my son wants to wear braids. He felt comfortable. And it wasn't braids like a girl's braids, it's the cornrows that men wear. And he had an uncle and, male figures who had dreads and braids, and he wanted to be like them. So, that's the way he wanted his hair. And the schools fought and said, no, you can't have it like that. Well, she took it to a state legislator who happens to have dreadlocks. And he took it and he introduced a bill. And so today, in the state of Illinois, there is a bill protecting students from being discriminated against in schools because of the way they wear their hair. So that is a good thing.
Talk a little bit about you growing up in Chicago. Where did you grow up?
I grew up on the west side of Chicago, I grew up in a community called Lawndale, and then my family moved to Austin. And if you Google those places today, the first thing that's going to come up is crime, crime, crime.
Was it like that? Was it like that when you were growing up?
No, it wasn't like that when I was growing up. Not that I saw, and not that I knew. And if you go back and look at the newspapers, I don't see a lot of crime, and I didn't feel like we were in an area with a lot of crime at all. It was an area though that bungalows. And grass. It was a typical looking working class, middle class black neighborhood. I never felt like I was growing up in the so-called black ghetto until I got to college. And I was reading all the sociology books, and they said I grew up in the black ghetto. And I said, oh, okay.
And you said, well, what does that mean? What does that mean?
I remember being in class, and they were talking about the west side of Chicago and, and just how bad it was. And I was like, oh, really? Oh, okay. No clue to me. But I think that's probably what a lot of people who grew up in the neighborhoods felt. For me, the people who lived next door owned a string of restaurants. The man who lived on the other side of us worked for the city as an inspector. There were teachers down the street. So that was not the world that I knew. But I lived in a house with a father and a mother. I lived in a house where my dad worked 2 jobs until he bought his own business. I lived in a house where education was important. I did very well in school because I was supported, because my father made a point of driving us around the city and trying to expose us to things outside of the community. And we traveled, and my friends in Austin were very much like me. So that I did not, there was no trying to get out. There was you will be the best that you can, and you will do your best, and you will always attempt to be the best. That's what I was taught. And I think that's my friends who came from very similar households, that we were all taught the same thing.
So where did your love for journalism come?
High school. It was high school. There was a teacher who kind of saw something in me, saw that I enjoyed writing. And the Chicago Public Schools had a program where they would choose students from various high schools to introduce them to radio. That happened my junior year. So my junior year, I literally would take the L downtown one day a week. And as opposed to being in class, I was in a class with students from all around the city my junior year. And we did the same thing my senior year. And if anything, it was an introduction to theater. It was an introduction to other parts of the city that I wasn't familiar with. And it was also an introduction to discrimination and racism and the disparities. Because what I saw was that when we would visit the white high schools, the high school that I was in, our chemistry lab was one room, and we did chemistry and biology, I think, in the same room. When I'd go to the north side and we'd visit those schools and take tours, it looked like something that I eventually saw in college. The books that we were using were literally different. They had all the AP. They had more AP classes than we did. We may have had 6 or 7, 8 AP classes. They had 12, 13, 14 AP classes. The school was cleaner. It was bigger. The athletic facility was better. I saw then that there is a big difference in how this city funds the Black community as opposed to the white community. I learned that very early as well. And that actually inspired me to want to tell those kinds of stories and want to represent the community and expose those things if I could.
What was your first job as a journalist?
Peoria, Illinois. I got right out of college. I'd had an internship in Peoria my last quarter of my junior year, because I did graduate a year early, and there was a job opening. I was interning at the ABC affiliate. There was a job opening at the CBS affiliate, and I didn't have a lot of experience, but I thought I'd go for it. And back then, we're talking the late 70s. They were looking for Black people to go on television. They were looking for Black journalists, and so they took a gamble on me as well.
And now, fast forward many years later, you are the president of the National Association of Black Journalists. Yeah, big smile on your face. You gotta feel pretty proud of that. Congratulations. I can't think of someone better to lead that. That's been a few years now. What has that journey been like?
Challenging, because I took over in August of 2019 with a lot of plans, and by March of 2020, everything was shut down. And the pandemic hit the Black community hard, which means that it hit our members hard. So there were people, our journalists, who were reporting on family members who had died, and the stories were tough to hear. And so you had our members who were having to cover this pandemic and concerned about their own families. Like every journalist was, but it was even more so for the Black journalists, because the numbers were so high, so disproportionately high,
right,
in the Black community. So, everybody knew somebody who had died from COVID, some couple people in the same family and stuff. So that was tough to deal with, because, and then actually by that April, I got COVID. So I got it early on, and that actually was in March. Yeah, I think the weekend that they announced it was a pandemic, I think I had it the weekend after that
of 2020.
Yeah. That I knew I thought I had the flu.
Yeah.
And so but it I was exhausted. I was very fortunate. instance, because again, it was so new, I didn't know that I had it. I just knew that I was really tired and it was hard to stay awake, and and I was achy, but I was working from home by then, because immediately they were like, well, let's try this once you work from home. So I didn't have to go in. So I got through it. But so it was that. And then right after the pandemic, or not even after it, but right after, the pandemic hits, and then May comes around, and it's the George Floyd.
Yeah. Wow. You had an incredible run as president.
Now my members are just fearful. They're covering these protests and worried about if they're going to be targeted. They're having to just not put aside, but they're having to do their jobs, knowing that these protests that are going on, they can't march with the protesters, but they definitely empathize with them because they have sons and husbands and uncles who have been the victim of police brutality. But at the same time, they're gonna tell both sides of the story because this is what we do. They're gonna tell a complete story because this is what we do. But the advantage is being able to sometimes bring those personal experiences to that story when you ask the people who are out there, why are you here?
Yeah. So you are leading this group who's going through all of this, and you're experiencing at the same time because you are a reporter.
I was reporting from home, but still covering the story. And then you have to remember, too, at the same time, so I'm wearing this journalism hat. I'm wearing the NABJ hat, and I'm wearing the hat of a mother of two Black boys, two Black millennials. I mean, I remember being on the air in all the, there were the chaos that was happening in the city, and right literally down the street from where I live. And we had a double box, which means that I'm in one box and I see the video in the other, and I'm kind of talking over the video with the anchors and stuff. And that's like on one side of the brain. But on the other side of the brain, I'm in prayer because my son, my middle one, Cody, who was driving from Atlanta to Chicago. And, I had said to him before I went on, pack some food, only stop if you have to go to the bathroom, don't linger. Is the car enough gas? Make sure that, the car is in good working order. I was terrified. Because the country, was angry. White people were angry. What I saw on television, you got to come from the South all the way through Southern Illinois. And I'm like any mother who kind of goes, yeah, well, is it everybody? No, it's not. But is my son going to run into, someone who's had a bad day, somebody who's angry? But you do your job over here, but that other side of you is just really concerned and fearful. And then my other son was in LA, and him I called, and I was just like, just stay home.
Yeah.
Just stay in. Just don't go out. Just don't go out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still president of NABJ?
Yes. I was reelected in August of 21. And so I'm in until 23. And things have definitely calmed down. Before was a lot of pandemic. And then, of course, we had security issues with extremists, and I had to deal with that. And calling on managers to make sure that the managers would make sure that those reporters who are out there are protected. So this year is better. We are still dealing with some things, but finally we're able to focus on some advocacy issues, our continued push to make sure that there's diversity in the newsroom, that Black managers, that we're seeing Black journalists hired in some top positions, that we're able to put on some programs that provide the training and the skill sets, that our members are looking for. So a little bit back to norm as much as we can be virtually. Looking forward to our conference in person in August. God, please.
And just to circle back, the movement on the hair on the air, what are you seeing because you have like 4,000 members, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you seeing that across the board where more journalists are expressing who they are and going natural? And
yeah, I mean, look at it. Think about it. Next time you watch television, you see some of the anchors on CNN. If you look at CBS, I know they've got a couple of reporters that have natural hair, and it's that big, fluffy, natural hair. Mine's not that big. I wish it were, but mine's not.
But you're just, your personality is big. So whether it's hair or not, we see you, we hear you.
I think you're definitely seeing more women who are wearing their hair natural. And let me say, there is nothing wrong with those women who choose to wear it straight. I don't want them to feel like anybody's saying, that's bad. Not at all.
Yeah.
If that's what they're comfortable being, then that's cool. But for so long, those of us who chose to go natural got pushback, and it's kind of like you're saying, fine, if you want to go straight, cool. But those who decide to go natural, allow us to do the same, allow us to make that choice and make that decision, without any blowback. But I think you're definitely seeing, and I think you will continue to see more and more Black women wear their hair natural because there are products now to make it easier. And that was also what was tough in the beginning. You wanted to wear it natural, but you didn't have the kind of product that would keep your hair moist, that would make sure that it remained strong and stuff. So now there's so many products on the market.
Right. Dorothy, before we go, I have to ask you, I ask all the guests, what does 10 seconds to air mean for you? What do you do 10 seconds before you hit air?
I pray, because literally, I have been a television journalist for more than 40 years, but I still get a little nervous right before I go on air. I start thinking of all the people who are listening and watching. And for that few seconds, I'm a ball of nerves. So I pray. I pretend that I am reaching out and I am holding my mother's hand who has gone above. And I hear her voice say, it'll be okay. It's going to be okay. And that's my ritual to say, all right, girlfriend, you got this. Now let's go.
And that's incredible. That's so honest. I love that. And why? What is it about your mother's hand that calms you down?
Because she was a calming force in my life. I was that child who was always bouncing everywhere and, sometimes a little bit of a drama queen, which obviously leads to why I do what I do for a living.
I do not think of you as a drama queen, by the way, but we'll go with it.
Well, when in your personal life, people who know you best are like, oh my God, girl, please sit down somewhere. And that's typically what she would always say. Mm-hmm. So when I need to just settle and get ready to deliver this information, to command the audience, she is the person that I think of and hear her voice saying, okay, now, all right, time to settle down.
And that calms you down.
That calms me down, yeah.
And when it's all over, what do you think?
When it's all over, I'm done. I have a really good way of being able to say, no matter what the story is, and it really is my way of dealing with much of what we, especially when I was a GA reporter, what we cover in terms of the death, the destruction, the madness, as soon as it is over, as soon as I say back to you, anchor number one, anchor number two, then I shut it all down. I am no longer this person on the air. I am whoever I am in my personal life, which means that's the mother, that's the wife, that's the sister, whatever. And I switch very quickly from professional to personal, and it's done. On with the rest of my day. That part of the job, it's done.
And did your mom ever get to see you on the air?
Oh, yeah. A lot of times. Yeah. I mean, because I'd been in Chicago. I mean, she passed away about 15 years ago. So I've been on the air more than 30 years here in Chicago. So she saw me a lot, and she would definitely watch. And of course, like any mother, she would see me, and then I'd get that phone call that would say, "Girl, you need to get rid of that red coat." And what did you have on today? And what, did you notice? And, and I knew she was proud of me because she would tell everybody else she was proud of me. And every now and then she would say, yeah, it was really interesting what you did. But for the most of the time, it was like, you can step your game up just a little bit and do this to the hair and do this to the whatever. Right. But it was definitely all said in love. So, I miss that part because nobody else is as honest with me.
Of course, no one's as honest as your mom. My mom used to call and say, "Were those my earrings? Did I give you those earrings? Where'd you get those?" And every time I'd have to just say, "Yeah, Mom, you gave me those earrings." If I said no, she'd say, "I'm pretty sure I did give those to you." It was like, you mentioned that your mother would comment on your hair. Did she have a particular way she wanted you to wear your hair?
No, for her, it wasn't so much a particular way. But remember, in Chicago, the wind is blowing. I could be standing out live somewhere and she would just say, "Girl, your hair was all over your head." And I would tell her, "Mom, did you notice the wind was blowing? Did you notice it was raining?" Yeah. Or she would say, "Yeah, I see it was raining today." And that meant that your hair that had started out straight, because I was wearing it straight then, was all kind of curly and bunched up. And she would say, "Yeah, you got caught in the rain, huh? Okay."
So she didn't actually get to see you go natural.
She did not.
What would she think?
She did not. I think she would have been fine with it. I think she would have really felt like finally I'd embraced my hair, because she was the one who, when I was a little girl, she would not straighten my hair. She wouldn't let me get a relaxer because she said the texture was too fine. And she really didn't want me to straighten my hair because she felt there was too much heat for my hair. So, and I wanted to straighten it because it was too wild for me back then. So I think she would like the shortcut. Mm-hmm. She would be happy with that.
Mm-hmm. Dorothy, thank you for your honesty. Love it.
Oh. And thank you for having me. This has been so much fun, as always. Such a joy to talk to you.
And you too. Okay, well, I look forward to the next conversation that we have.